All righty, welcome back to the Lehocky Eagles postgame show. The Eagles won it today, 28-23. They are now 8-1, 4-0 at home. It got a little hairy at the end, folks. The Cowboys got to the 6-yard line with a chance to win the game. They wound up at the 26, and then throw a desperation pass. So the Eagles win again. It is time to hear from the man who covered the game for JAKIB Sports. He's at Lincoln Financial Field, and he is brought to us, of course, by Dry Tech Waterproofing. The great John McMullen joins us. Hello, John. Well, I mean, when you saw that ending, what were your thoughts?
Boy, yeah. The Eagles hung on the credit, but I do think I look at it from a Dallas perspective. As you mentioned, Mike, you have a first and 5 at the Philadelphia 6-yard line with 27 seconds left. And I'm thinking, boy, they got 4 shots in the end zone to win this thing, and I don't like the Eagles' odds. And all of a sudden, here they come. They're backing up, penalty on Tyler Smith. Dak Prescott sacked for 11 yards. All of a sudden, that 1st and 5 turns into 2nd and 21. Then you have a delay of game. Then, 3rd and 26. Dak Prescott throws it 4 yards short of the end zone. This is a veteran quarterback, and he kind of bailed the Eagles out with a number of things, taking those sacks, delays of game. Obviously, the false start isn't on him, but got to be better in those types of situations. I think I got the feeling that the Eagles escaped with this one.
Kind of feels like that with the way it ended, no question about that, John. But I do want to ask you about a couple of injuries and if there was anything that came out after the game regarding Dallas Goedert and his arm or his elbow injury. And then Jalen Hurts. I mean, it's just undeniable at this point. I know he came out. He was running the football around in the second half a little bit. He was accurate in that second half as well. But as far as the knee goes, were anything discussed regarding Dallas Goedert and Jalen Hurts postgame?
Well, with Dallas, obviously, you guys kind of saw it, and he was immediately walked to the locker room when he was injured. It was pretty clearly he was dealing with something on that forearm. We got an X-ray in the stadium, and that's when he was downgraded from questionable to out. So that's not a good sign for Dallas Goedert. We'll learn officially more tomorrow, most likely, but I'm not feeling real positivity on that one. And you guys know Jalen Hurts does not talk about his knee injury, but the best he came up with was, selfishly, the bye week comes at a great time for him. So obviously, he's got to heal up. He's playing through it, but clearly he's not 100% from a running perspective. And I said it in the pregame show. I'm going to say it now. I don't think people understand his impact on the Eagles' running game because they don't run the ball well traditionally. They need the threat of Jalen Hurts and that +1 to make that running game go. And I think you saw it at the end of the game. They tried to run out the clock. They tried to run the football, and they couldn't do it. So they need that part of their offense back. But they keep persevering. And, Nick Sirianni said it in his press conference. Everybody brings up Bill Parcells. You are what your record says you are. 8-1, 27 consecutive weeks. The Eagles have had the best record in the NFL or tied for the best record in the NFL. These are the glory days of the Philadelphia Eagles, at least in the modern era.
John, I agree with you 100%. It's one thing to dissect how and why a team, wins. It's another thing to revel in the fact that they simply just know how to win. That being said, Nakobe Dean goes down again. We won't know the severity of his injury again. But, I talked about it when Nakobe Dean came back from the first injury, how well Nicholas Morrow and Zach Cunningham was actually playing. And I posed the question to not only you but everybody else, are those guys a better fit for the defense from a production standpoint and how they've been playing than Nakobe Dean is? Do you just place him back in? I felt like, after N'Kobe went out, the linebackers played a lot better than they had been playing overall. And I know he had 12 tackles last week, and he led the team in tackles last week, but the majority of those tackles, Johns, were 5'10", 7 yards downfield. That's a big difference. That's where I like to see Reed Blankenship making tackles, not my middle backer.
Yeah, I agree with you. N'Kobe hasn't played well. Now he's out again with a foot injury again, so durability is a concern. I think Zach Cunningham, first look, just feeling, I thought he played a really good game today. Nick Morrow, not as much, but, he had tough duty coming in for N'Kobe Dean. I think before he was playing better. I agree with you, Seth. I remember when you asked me that question, and I kind of laughed it off a little bit because I know how the Eagles feel about N'Kobe Dean. And I was right. They played N'Kobe Dean, but I don't know if they should have. I think you may have been right because Nick has just been playing better. So I don't know. You never want anybody to get hurt, but I don't think that injury is going to affect them as much as, say, Dallas Goedert would, or certainly, obviously, somebody like Jalen Hurts. Yeah, he's not played that well, and you have to be honest about that assessment.
John, we're looking at this game, and they had so many chances to win the game. The Dallas Cowboys did. The knee that was short of the goal line, then Dak Prescott steps out of bounds. They gave the Eagles field position at the 40-yard line a couple times in this game. The kicker, he's kicking to Rashard Penny, and he kicks it out of bounds.
Yeah.
I guess my question, if you're covering the league this long, what's the difference between a Cowboy team that'll make goofs like that and an Eagles team that'll survive almost every week, no matter what happens to them?
Well, I always go back to Dennis Green, the old coach, the old Vikings Arizona coach, told me, winning is a habit, and I think it is. And, to the other side of that coin is a habit. Now, the Cowboys are a very good team, but I kind of mentioned in the opening all the mistakes. Dak Prescott's been around for a long time now. You expect those mistakes out of a rookie quarterback. There was a kid in Minnesota who didn't take one rep this week, got traded for, showed up with 5 days, didn't even play with his team, and found a way to win a football game. You're a veteran quarterback and you're taking delay of games and end of game situations. If I had any hair and I was Mike McCarthy, I'd pull my hair out. You can't have that from your on-field leader, and I think the opposite side of that is Jalen Hurts, who's so cool, so calm, so collected, even though he's fighting through injury. I think that's part of the difference of these two particular teams. Winning has become a habit for the Eagles, and when they do lose, like they lost to the Jets, they're disgusted with themselves, and they don't take it well. And I don't get that sense from the Cowboys. Look, CeeDee Lamb was phenomenal in this game. We all thought he would be, but even to a greater degree. And as much as they got the ball to him, they didn't get the ball to him enough because the Eagles couldn't cover him. So it's one of those things where if something is working, you go away from it just to go away from it because you don't think it's going to work. Like, I'm going to force Sidney Brown and Eli Ricks to stop CeeDee Lamb. And even at the end of the game, the Eagles finally said, all right, we're going to put Slay on him. They couldn't do anything with him. And in big situations, the fourth down, they're throwing a fade to, I think it was Gallup at one point, that they made a big throw to Tolbert, who made a couple plays, but they are not the receiver CeeDee Lamb is. And I don't know. I just didn't understand their process on the field And look, Dak had 374 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. So people are going to pick up that box score tomorrow and say, he played a pretty good game. And I watched the game and I said, he played a pretty poor game. So that's the kind of disconnect I see with the Dallas Cowboys.
Let's keep it with the receivers, but this time on the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, obviously you look at a guy like Eli Ricks and you look at a guy like Sidney Brown, and they unfortunately allowed a lot of yards tonight, as did James Bradbury. But for the Eagles, offensively speaking, A.J. Brown, his streak got snapped tonight, 6 straight games of 125-plus yards that we've talked about all throughout the week. But A.J. Brown tonight, unfortunately, 5 catches in the first half and then only 2 in the second half for, I believe, a total of 7 yards, 66 yards in the game total, and I believe only 8 of those came in the second half. Were the Dallas Cowboys doing something different to take away A.J. Brown, or was it just about getting pressure on Jalen Hurts?
Well, I think the Eagles came out in the third. The Eagles were dominant in the third quarter. I mean, they had the ball for almost the entire quarter. They had the 2 touchdown drives. When they did run the ball effectively, it was generally certainly on that first drive. They came out, that was the Rashad Penny. They started out with getting the ball to 40-yard line because our old friend Rashaan Evans had a face mask. He was here for about 48 hours on the practice squad, so he's helping the Eagles out. Then they come out Rashad Penny for 6 yards, Rashad Penny for 2 yards. Then it was a Jalen Hurts scramble. Then it was Swift for 8 yards. Then it was back-to-back, Swift for 11 yards, then the great touchdown pass to Devontae Smith, which was a dime down the field by Jalen Hurts. So that was a real quick drive, only 6 plays because they got the good field position. And then Dallas had a decent drive, but was forced to punt the football, and the Eagles went on the long drive, where they ended up with the A.J. Brown touchdown. So they completely dominated the third quarter, and then it kind of went away in the fourth quarter. And I think it was, and Seth and I try to talk about this all the time. The Eagles had the lead at that point. Had the basically when A.J. scored, they were up 28-17. So they have the 2-score lead, and at that point they're trying to get out, and they were not effective in the fourth quarter running the football traditionally. And that's where I think Jalen Hurts and his injury really takes an impact on this offense. And they got a little bit less aggressive than they typically do. Look, they were in almost the exact same situation they were against the Jets when they tried to win the football game, and it ended up with the pick 6 that cost them the football game. This time they just went run, and they almost turned it over because DeAndre Swift fumbled the last one. Tyler Steen was able to get on it. Then they punted the football and said, all right, let's try to hold Dallas. So they went the opposite way from they usually did. They didn't play well in the fourth quarter, and they didn't throw the football.
And that within itself is amazing, John, because, what they should have done against the Jets, they did tonight, and what they should have done against the Cowboys, they did against the Jets in a lot of ways. And to me, that's kind of reading the situation. Zach Wilson wasn't going to beat you. Dak, was just on one tonight. He was getting it done when he needed to get it done until they got in the fourth quarter, and he started, throwing up on his shoes and making, bad decisions. I want to talk about, the targets that the wide receivers are getting. And I get it. A.J. is a bad dude. A.J. is their number 1 receiver, and there's no getting around that. But sometimes I look at the targets, and they're just so out of whack. A.J. Brown got 9 targets. Devontae got 3 and caught all 3. Dallas Goedert got 4 and caught 3. DeAndre Swift, and he didn't even play in the second half damn near. Olamide Zaccheaus, he got 2 targets. And I get that AJ's your guy, and he's probably going to, get even more. But I just feel like sometimes, the offense, could be so much more prolific if they could figure out, how to – it's almost like Jalen makes a decision to go to A.J. in situations where, he feels stressed. Like, that's the guy that I can count on to make a play happen. I think that Dallas Goedert falls in that category. I believe that Devontae Smith falls in that category. And I think the more that he can distribute the ball more evenly to everybody else, especially those three guys, the more effective the offense would be from a passing game perspective. Now, he had a great night. No complaints about it. Pretty darn efficient. 17 for 23, 207 yards, against one of the better against the fourth-ranked pass defense in the National Football League. But I still think, if those other guys could get, a few more targets per game, I think that would help the passing game exponentially. That's just my opinion.
Well, in today's game, they only had 21 targeted throws, so they didn't throw it a lot because of the nature and the personality of the game. So typically that'll take care of itself when they're throwing the football 40 times. But, I got to tell you about the balance thing, and I brought it up with CeeDee Lamb on the other side. He had 16 targets. I don't think he had enough. If you have a player like that and the other team can't stop him, why are you going to balance it out just to balance it out? Like, I don't want Jalen Tolbert, and I don't want to see Michael Gallup, if I'm a Cowboys fan, ever get another target again. I mean, I don't want to balance that out. I want my best player to get the football. Now, if you do a bunch of stuff and you bracket him and you're stopping him, okay, then he might have to go in a different direction. But when the opposing team is giving up 11 receptions for 191 yards, no, as long as he's healthy, as long as he's not tired from running so much, I'm going to keep giving him the football. Same thing with A.J. Brown with the Eagles. He has been on this historic streak, which stopped tonight. Never happened before in the history of the NFL. I'm going to keep feeding him the football. And today, the only reason it did stop is because of the way the game unfolded, and the Eagles weren't throwing the football in the fourth quarter, or otherwise he's probably up over 100 again. But that kind of happens in the NFL. I'm not, now the Eagles are a little different than the Cowboys because the Cowboys don't have that real second complement, and Devontae Smith is a great player in his own right. Ferguson played well, their tight end, but they don't really have that second complement at receiver. But look, if somebody's not stopping somebody, just keep feeding them the football. That's my mentality.
No, listen, John, I agree with you 100%. But my thing is, I look at how defenses try to take away and deal with preeminent receivers today. There was a time where you had an answer. I don't care what everybody else is doing. I want Ferguson and Tolbert and Gallup and everybody else to beat me. But you know what? CeeDee Lamb ain't beating me. I mean, what do you have in your repertoire that allows you to take away a CeeDee Lamb no matter where he lines up, whether he's in a slot, whether he's lined up at X, whether he's lined up at Z? What do you have to take that guy away? Because he basically had whatever he wanted. And to your point, Dallas made a mistake by stop going to him. It's not like the Eagles did anything different. There are plenty of times where I've seen him open, and it's like you got single high safety, you're shading Reed Blankenship towards him, but he's really not helping. So now when the ball's in the air, now he's breaking. Why not just take him away? Why not just go inside technique, jam him, get underneath? Now you got Reed over the top. You got Slay on the inside, and you got Reed Blankenship over the top and everything outside. Take him away. Make him go to Ferguson. Make him go to these other guys. Beat me with somebody else, okay? So teams don't do that, and I get it. So if they're not going to do it, then keep going to the well. The Eagles have done that on many occasions. A lot of times, A.J. Brown is getting 15, 16, 14, 13 targets a game. That's a lot of targets. That speaks of a defensive coordinator's inefficiency to be able to make adjustments on the fly to take that guy away. But I'm just saying from an overall offensive standpoint, I could see Devontae Smith I could see his frustrations today. You know, Dallas Goedert is a guy that doesn't show the outward frustration, but as one of the top 3 tight ends in the National Football League, I know he's got to be frustrated. So there's got to be a way that, you know, offensively you can get these other guys involved to make them a weapon, so the defensive coordinators have to prepare for a wider variety of things. Because when you play against a guy like Steve Spagnuolo, you know, on Monday Night Football, I promise you he's going to have a remedy for A.J. Brown.
Well, I mean, we'll see how that shakes out. We're going to see it. AJ's playing at a pretty high level. I've seen Kansas City get gashed pretty badly at times. Steve had a good day today, at least early. You know, I know people in Philadelphia love Steve. Steve is the architect of 2 of the worst defenses in NFL history, in New Orleans and New York. So a lot of it depends on talent. And they're pretty good, but they're not great. Chris Jones is obviously a phenomenal player, but I don't think they're great defensively, and we'll see how they handle AJ. But the case of where I do agree with you when it comes to the Eagles have great alternatives. So you do want to get Devontae Smith the football more. I don't think there's any question about that. And we'll see if Dallas is even healthy. That's my biggest concern coming out of this game. But yeah, today was kind of an anomaly because they only had 21 targeted throws. So, you know, if you get Devontae Smith up to 6 or 7, if you get Dallas Goedert up to 7 or 8, is that okay? I think that's okay. But if you double AJ to 16 or somewhere in that range, I don't have a problem with that. Because, look, and Nick said it, I think 2 weeks ago. Right now, the best football player on the Philadelphia Eagles, and there are a lot of good players on this team, 8-1, best team in the NFL. The best, in my opinion, is A.J. Brown. I don't think anybody's playing at a higher level. And we got Hall of Famers on this team, but nobody is playing at a higher level than A.J. Brown. And it's the same thing when I look at Dallas and CeeDee Lamb. 16 targets, everybody's like, well, that's fine. No, it's not. I watched this game. He should have got the football more.
John, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. You get a week off now with the bye, and we'll catch you back in 2 weeks. Thanks for hanging. John McMullen,
Thanks,
live
guys.
from
Appreciate
Lincoln
it.
Financial Field with his analysis on the JAKIB Media and Lehocky Eagles postgame show. Let's get a little word from Delaware Valley Insurance, where you can save up to 40% on your car insurance. Right now, just call your partners, Fran or Jim, at Del Val Insurance. Here's how you can connect.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.